So COVID was a big deal. Obviously, we're essential because the dogs have to be clean, fed, and upkept. You know, they're alive. So the contracted training company was there, and hands down. And me and the kennel master, we do have a kennel master there. He's an MA, like most at least most places in the Navy have them. And we had to run a blue gold schedule because they didn't want us all there. And training, you know, we were kind of off the grid, so no one knew we really existed, kind of. So we got away with, you know, doing what we wanted to do. Wasn't too bad.
To me, it's fascinating and alarming that the whole COVID experience had the impact that it had on our military.
Well, it got me out.
Yeah.
Forced me out.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't take it.
No shit.
I refused it, and my EAOS lined up, and it was a complete and utter abortion and alleyway for me because I had to put a religious waiver in, like most guys, kick the can down the road long enough until it was my time to go. And I literally made the choice. I think I got out in like 61 days.
Wow.
No plan, no job, no nothing.
No doubt.
No kids, or 2 kids in a family. Just said, nope, this doesn't feel right, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right. And unfortunately, it wasn't what the brochure said the experience anymore. So it was taking my smile. So it was talking me to move on.
No, good for you. I applaud that. I think, how does it sit with you now, looking back and seeing the military saying, hey, if you want to come back in because you didn't do it, you know, you're welcome. Like, how many of those guys are like, fuck you, I'm not coming back in? Do you know anybody that's come back in?
No, and all the guys were already at that point of fuck you.
Yeah.
Because of how they were being treated. The guys that were saying, hey, this doesn't feel right, I don't think I agree with this. I mean, they got
railroaded.
Oh man. I mean, I know on the West Coast that they were pretty powerful movement over there. And on the East Coast, they just corralled these dudes in an office and said, check in every day. We don't care what, you know, like it was, you were blackballed, man. Like it was
really
bad. Yeah. They wanted you under MA supervision. I mean, it was
what?
Dude, guys were
for not getting the shot.
Guys were fighting for their lives, man.
Dude, what?
Fighting for their lives, dude. It was crazy.
Dude, that's embarrassing.
It's very embarrassing. And it got to the point with me, my wife and I were you know, holding tight, saying, hey, well, if we feel this way, then we're being told it's time to leave.
Yeah. Wow.
But I feel like you to answer your question, I feel like it's complete and utter dog shit that they're going to welcome people back that they kicked out.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way I would do it.
Absolutely not. Matter of fact, I'm going to come after you and probably sue you, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think they should.
Yep.
Do you know about how many guys how many no shit active duty SEALs refused the shot and were forced out of the military?
I don't have that number.
Ballpark? Dozens, hundreds?
I would say dozens, because I know in the West Coast, I think the group in the West Coast that kind of started it, like, hey, we're going to lawyer up, this doesn't feel right. It was a pretty big group of dudes. I think it was somewhere 10 or more.
Yeah.
And I know on the East Coast, it was guys were on a daily mission. Like, well, if I don't do this, then I got, you know, and that was, again, another 2 dozen dudes that were in a holding pattern of what their future was going to be. And these weren't all like new guys. Yeah. This is war, you know, veterans that were like, this does not feel right.
That's absurd.
Yep.
Absolutely absurd.
Yep.
So, all right. So you play that game long enough to at least get out without having to be kicked out.
Yeah. I got my honorable, which was good.
Were the guys that were forced out for not getting the shot, did they get other than honor?
I believe so. Or they're getting threatened with that, I believe. If not dishonorable. Because you were getting hit by, you were disobeying a direct order.
To me, this sucks for 2 reasons.
Right.
Actually, more than 2 reasons, but the primary 2 are that I get hey, when you sign up, like, you can't refuse all the other inoculations and you can't be like, no, I don't want that one. They're like, this is what you're getting. You signed up. That's part of the deal. I get that. Where this is different is that, you know, that's not one that you signed up to get, number one. And number 2, it's like, you know, I mean, you can argue till we're all blue in the face about the efficacy or the lack of efficacy of it. But the fact that it was, you know, essentially experimental, it was rushed through, it wasn't part of the program when you signed up. You know, it's kind of an oddball. You know, to me, from a legality standpoint, it's kind of a weird gray area that way. Like, you know, where I think it's the most disheartening is that, you know, to take guys, say, look, like, I could understand if the Navy said, we would like everybody to get it, but we're not going to force you to get it. You know,
you can suggestive sell to me all day long.
Yeah,
but I have to have a choice.
Yeah, to me that is how they should have handled it. To legitimately, like, slap your dick on the counter and say, if you don't get this, we're kicking qualified combat veteran, active duty Navy SEALs out of the military because you won't take this fucking shot, to me, it says so much more about what I've been bitching about since you and I have come in contact with each other since last night, and just the lack of overall quality leadership. And the higher you go, the worse it gets. And to me, this is as clear cut of an example that exists, of that. From a morale standpoint, from an overall community vibe, if you will, you've got now. How the fuck is there a fly flying around in here, especially in this weather? Bryce, handle that, will you? From your perspective, having gotten out fairly recently, how would you characterize the overall morale of the SEAL community right now?
I have more conversations on a weekly basis with the guys that are so lost because they lost what they feel is a part of them when they had to inevitably leave the SEAL teams before they wanted to.
Yeah.
I was one of them. And I think between that instance, the situation we're talking about now, and then everything else, because the op tempo isn't where it was, and now everyone's so focused on, I hate to say it, but like haircuts and shaves and stuff, that I understand we joined the military and there has to be some bearing there. I'm not going to say we're special, so we should get special, but we should be focused on our priority, and that's defending this country at the highest level.
Yeah. And
I don't think that that's necessarily the priority all the time. And I think from the mafia, the little E5, E6 mafia, it's they're still going to be pipe hitters and they're still going to get after it. But I think that a lot of guys are really looking at it like, man, it's not what the brochure said.
Yeah.
And I think that it's heartbreaking. It was for me. It was really difficult to make that transition out when I wasn't done. I had plenty left in me to give to the Navy. Like I said, a lot of my buddies, it's a weekly conversation on what's next. What do we do next?
Yeah.
How do we navigate this space that we didn't anticipate being in? And I found my silver linings, found my light through helping others get out with what they're entitled to get out with. So yeah, it's low. Morale is low, my friend. Let's just to put it in a nutshell, very low. And I'm talking with guys coming off the birds now from deployment, and on my coast, it's we got to get across the street. We got to get over to the command. Like we want them to take the next step forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think from a big picture standpoint, I would beg to differ a little bit in that it's called naval special warfare.
I know.
It's called special operations.
No.
So to me, whether you're shaved or not, or your uniform looks a certain way, it's like, yeah, you're in the military, but special operations are unconventional by design.
Correct.
And I think you should always look at, like I was saying last night, to me, the simplest question that you should always ask yourself when you're deciding whether or not to do something is, does it make us a more effective warfighting force? The answer is yes, do it. To me, if you're expecting guys to be as blended in and as kind of autonomous as possible within the military to go execute anti-terrorism and quick strike raids and unconventional warfare, to me, the smart answer is we'll let them, from a uniform and code standpoint, let them be however they need to be good at that. Right. I think being clean shaven with a high and tight has no bearing on that. And if anything, the amount of time that you spend going through training and getting to that point is something that very few people obtain. And if something as simple as letting guys have beards and out of reg tattoos and fucking ponytails or top knots, they look like Vikings or whatever, if that helps them feel more like a band of brothers, if it raises morale, why not do it? It's not hurting anything.
We need you back, man. We need you back, bro.